simple-minded. Children are all idiots. Complex world of right and wrong. Critically insignificant astrological geomancy. Twilight magic. Refined Uranus. So we're done kind of deeply analyzing each of the books in turn, and now we've moved on to a more general trajectory about the occult and things like that. He talks about the fall of man for a little bit. I don't know how much that ties into Harry Potter, but perhaps Satan's cleverest tool has been false religions, especially those religious belief systems that make adherents feel as if they have control over the world around them. One such belief system, nearly as old as humanity itself, is occultism, which, as we have seen in previous chapters, is the foundation of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. I disagree. Then Dick spends about 13 pages without mentioning Harry Potter once. And finally we get to the end of this chapter. It is neither absurd nor laughable to suppose that Harry Potter books might lead some children into the world of occultism. We've laughed at it. Okay, here's something that really peeves me off. In the next chapter here, Dick talks about Sean Sellers, who was placed on death row after committing these horrific murders. And it's a really sad story. If you want to learn more about it, you can look it up. He grew up in kind of a broken home, and which obviously eventually led to, his mental illness and eventually committing those horrific things. But what incenses me. The emotional void Sean felt gradually led him to where many of today's youths find themselves, the world of occultism. It began indirectly with his involvement at the age of 15 in a local Dungeons & Dragons fantasy role-playing group. Baines lists all these horrible things that happened to Sean to, kind of start him down this road, but he puts the blame on Dungeons & Dragons. It invalidates all of the horrible things that you just said that this guy experienced. It invalidates all of the people who've actually experienced that thing and places the blame on these outlets. There's a reason they go to those outlets. Don't say that the cause is Dungeons & Dragons. I hate every bit of that, and he hardly mentions Harry Potter. Of course, not everyone who indulges in occult activity will end up a murderer. Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that occultism often accompanies violent criminal behavior in young people. Obviously, cults are not good. Wicca, paganism, and Satanism, its connection to the Harry Potter series lies in the basic thrust of the plot. No, it doesn't. Rowling's books, although categorized as children's fantasy, fit very well into the current atmosphere of spirituality.
In what world?
Today's spiritually starved seekers are searching for spiritual relief through a variety of non-traditional groups, doctrines, and rituals. Transcendental meditation, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, shamanism, astral travel, numerous meditative arts, neo-paganism, witchcraft, Satanism, and occultism. Did you catch that? Transcendental meditation, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, shamanism. You're calling two of, the oldest religions in the world non-traditional? One can study the daily horoscope and call it spirituality. One can study women's outrage and call it spirituality.
Excuse me, what?
We're getting there, guys. Don't worry. We're getting there. Rowling's publisher in England, Bloomsbury, sought to repeat its Harry Potter success via a new book written for children ages 11 and up, Witch Child. Have you ever heard of this book? Clearly, their strategy didn't exactly pay off. Maybe, Dick, it just might have to do with the fact that Rowling wrote some decent books. That book that he references there has 16,000 ratings to 6 million. Clearly, it's not just the occult that is enticing people, okay? Oh, baby. Get comfortable for this one, guys. Heretical concepts based on occultic notions have infiltrated the Christian community in no small way, especially with regard to radical feminist theology.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Let's go! That's it, baby. That's the secret. Blame it on the women. Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. That's why paganism is on the rise. He puts Christian feminist in very distinct quotation marks here.
You see the quotations I'm making with my claw hands? It means I don't believe
in equal rights for women.
Surprisingly, a growing number of women throughout various denominations are embracing this new feminist/pagan theology. I like how he put the feminist/pagan in there, as if they go hand in hand, Not only was this women's conference fully sanctioned and financially sponsored by denominations, but also dozens of high-ranking denominational officials attended the event. The 27 speakers included lesbians, radical feminists, and neo-pagans. The purpose of the conference turned out to be an organized attempt to reimagine scripture, the church, and theology into feminist/pagan ideals. Boom, baby. Participants were asked to pray that oppression of women would cease. Can you imagine praying that oppression of your gender would cease? Can you imagine? Who would pray for that? Harry Potter family services were being held at this church. And first of all, that sounds dope as heck. Oh, here's the chapter where he talks a little bit about Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and how they compare to the world of Harry Potter. The fantasy tales of Tolkien and Lewis fall within the category of mythopoetic literature, meaning that they take place in worlds dissociated from the real world in which we live. Narnia takes place inside a freaking wardrobe. He summarizes The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings for us, and he's like, this summary cannot begin to do justice to the masterful tale Tolkien weaves using his expansive imagination and brilliant mind. While I don't disagree with this point, why would you just throw your opinion in there? Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter are two very different literary styles. Harry Potter is meant for children. I read Lord of the Rings in grade 5. Did I pick up anything of substance? No, I've had to go back a couple times, but reading Harry Potter is much easier for an 11-year-old to do, obviously. There are very different universes and very different writing styles. According to a number of insightful reviewers, the Potter books are little more than a cult glamorizing, morally bleak marketing sensation filled with one-dimensional characters. He kind of actually insults Tolkien here. His good characters are truly good. His evil characters are truly evil. And are you saying that Tolkien's characters are now one-dimensional? Tolkien's stories do not include episodes of good characters doing bad things. Of course they do. Merry and Pippin steal a bunch of fireworks and are up to all kinds of mischief.
The finest weed in the South Valley.
Gollum, especially. Is he good or is he bad? I don't know, but he saves the world in the end. How does that fit into your morally perfect world? In the Harry Potter series, one's best friend might turn out to be an enemy, while an enemy might actually be one's closest ally. And he's listing that as a problem. That's good character writing right there. Frodo sacrifices everything for the world because he answered to the higher calling of conscience and duty. Would Harry and his pals do the same? Yes, they absolutely would. Okay, so then we go into Narnia. He says that there is no direct association that can be made between the Chronicles of Narnia and any contemporary religion. I'm sorry, but if you cannot see the religious allegory in Narnia,
In your world, I have another name. You must learn to know me by it.
So apparently Lewis uses magic sparingly and in a highly stylized manner that does not connect with the real world. There's a magic wardrobe, horn painting. There's a lot of magic that connects with the real world. Is it Prince Caspian where they actually encounter the god Bacchus? They actually encounter the Roman god of wine? I will be the first to admit that the theology presented in Narnia is really well articulated, but to say that Rowling's novels have no merit whatsoever is just plain wrong. In too many instances, the ethics are muddy. Bad characters turn out to be good, good characters turn out to be bad. What about Matthew the tax collector? What about Zacchaeus, the short tax collector? Harmful deeds are committed to bring about positive results, e.g. Sirius Black, while in the form of a dog, drags Ron into a secret corridor beneath a tree, breaking Ron's leg in the process. You're grasping at so many straws here, you're building a freaking hay bale, buddy.
Boom. Roasted.
The majority opinion, that being the rational people who think that Harry Potter is really pretty harmless, belongs to pro-Potter journalists, educators, religious liberals, and freedom of speech advocates. Can you imagine saying freedom of speech advocates in a negative light? Who is not a freedom of speech advocate? You know, he gives a little bit of grace. He's like, some Christians have added unnecessary fuel to the fire by accusing Rowling of deliberately seeking to draw children into black magic / occultism / witchcraft, which is an unprovable charge. He doesn't refute that, of course, as a result if. Another great example of Eagle Eye Fessenden right there. He gets on the derogatory nature of muggle. The word is now being routinely used by the media in reference to Christians and other conservatives voicing concerns over the Harry Potter books. First of all, he says Christians and other conservatives, as if all Christians are conservative. Let's move on to closing thoughts. We're on the home stretch now. The sun's in my eyes again, but we're gonna keep going. Obane's here. Unveils another conspiracy. He's talking about Goosebumps here. Interestingly, the publisher of these grisly volumes is none other than Scholastic, the US publisher of Harry Potter. He says that parents should give examples of where the Harry Potter series is unbiblical and explain why God is against some of the things in Rowling's books. They're gonna be on the edge of their seat for that conversation, Mom. I'm tired of reading this. Dick has a lot of grace here. He says that even if a friend or family member chooses to ignore warnings about Harry Potter, let him know that he is still loved and accepted. And that's it. That's actually it, guys. He ends with a song sung by the armies that defeated the evil Sauron at the end of The Lord of the Rings, because evil will be conquered. Harry Potter will be conquered. Wrong! Rowling may not be in the best light, but she has still created one of the most popular series of all time. He cannot be contacted on the web anymore at baines.com because that domain is for sale now, and at the end of the book there's like 4 blank pages. In summary, I don't want this video to be about religion. You know, obviously don't send hate to anyone who might think this. In reality, I'm sure he's a good guy. And by the way, Richard Baines is a pretty interesting guy. And it turns out, not only is he a writer, he's also an actor. In 2010, he was in Jesus Christ Superstar, and he co-starred in the film Rappin'. And the plot is that Rappin' Hood is an ex-convict who's attempting to save his neighborhood from developers and hoodlums. And it's even got Ice-T in this movie, and it's got Richard Baines. If you want a good time, I would suggest you just look up clips from this movie.
What the hell's going on here?
Richie! Did you just use the HE double hockey sticks word? Next thing you know, you'll be using git. If you want a good time, look at Richie Baines' role in Rappin'.
Pizza and burgers all covered with cheese!
And that's gonna be it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you follow me on Pottermore, and Hogwarts is here. If you like it, don't forget to like and subscribe.
His main squeeze is Julia Child!
Now Rappin' Hood and the Wild Thing showed all the people what hope could bring.
You can tell by the way we played today that we stone deaf homeboys home state.
As you can tell by the beat coming from our box, yeah, the beat's so deaf it'll rock your top. Cause we can rock it up and we can rock you down, and we rock those suckers all out of town.